You studied tech, you studied computers. I did the same thing. I studied math, and then I was a
Mm,
software developer while I was doing photography for many years. And then someone told me it was going to take me 6 years, and it
interesting.
took me 6 years.
I
6
gotta
years
write that
before I
down.
was,
That's good
yeah,
advice.
the switch to digital definitely helped. You know,
I struggle to see how the numbers could work for a present day, all analog printmaker to craft a living out of this.
yeah. Well, I was going
Uh,
to ask you that. How are you going to make a living doing that? It doesn't have to be all or nothing, that's for sure. I mean, you're making great work and printing and
The sad thing is that I wouldn't be able to afford the equipment and even the travel to take the kind of photographs that I want to take and make the kind of prints I want to make, were it not for the fact that I'm not a photographer.
well,
So
okay, so you don't consider yourself a photographer, but how long have you been photographing?
I can't remember a time when I wasn't interested in photography.
Yeah,
It's always been an outlet, I always like a creative outlet. So
sure.
photography was one because I'm kind of a nerd, so I like creative outlet. I like making things, and I like devices and gadgets, right? So
Mhm.
cameras are like the perfect blend of the two things. You can be creative
Absolutely.
and you can also do a bit of maths when you need to.
Yeah. And they're a little bit of magic too, you know. Tell me about what you're shooting on and what you like to shoot on and your process.
Yeah, so as far as process goes, although I said I've had a lifetime kind of like interested in photography and whatnot, um, I only really consider it about a year and what's that? Just over a year ago when I exposed my first sheet of 8 by 10 film, and I found that for me that was a good match of technique in my mind. I like to work slow. I like to be quite methodical. So 8 by 10 view camera is the only thing I use these days. Um, and then I'm just over 1 year into printmaking. So when I first started off, I was just scanning film. But then this time last year, I was like, you know what? Everyone keeps saying that I should give printing a go. So I took the bathroom over one night when there was no lights on, and I didn't even have a safe light. So I used. Have you ever used a VR headset, like a virtual reality headset?
No, but I want to hear about that. Yeah. That's
So if you get an Oculus, or sorry, what they called a Quest headset,
yeah.
they have cameras on the outside, and what those cameras do is they look at the walls and make sure you don't run into the walls, right? So it's to stop you bumping your head. But those cameras are infrared; they're not visible light. So if you have a pitch black room with an infrared light on, which is like most home security cameras are infrared, you can strap on a VR headset and see in the dark. So, so
Oh, that is brilliant.
before
Yeah.
I even owned a safe light, even though a safe light is like a $5 investment, I didn't have one. But I was like, all right, I can just make do with what I had. So I used a VR headset as my safe light. I used a bare bulb to get a bit of light. Luckily, because the negative's rate by 10, you can just contact print onto. So my initial investment was just 20 sheets of paper and just made some prints that way. And
So
yeah.
going back to the VR headset really quick, that is a brilliant idea for a dark room. How does that render the scene compared to a monochrome red safe light? Is there
It's
latency? Is there lag?
there's no late no. So it's good enough that so some people get motion sickness when they wear VR headsets just because of like their brains can't cope with a slightly reduced frame rate. It's about 60 frames per second, sometimes 90.
Okay.
It's a bit grainy. It's kind of like, in a movie when it switches to the night vision mode, it looks like that. It's
Right.
monochrome.
Right.
But you can see perfectly well. I could use a pair of scissors to cut out test strips
Uh,
and it has the advantage that because it's infrared, I imagine, although I haven't tested this, I imagine you could do color printing. Anyway, as soon as I bought myself a red light bulb, I have not gone back to that. But it was just a fun little journey on.
it's a little bit more of an expensive
Yes, I
approach.
wouldn't recommend it if you don't already have one of these things knocking
Yeah.
about.
Are you printing mainly contacts or are you doing enlargements
My
or?
initial kind of journey was like made some contact prints. I was like, whoa, this is absolutely amazing. This is incredible. And then I stuck one on the wall, stood back 10 feet, and I was like, oh, it's a little small. But
Yeah.
I realized that actually just it's okay. There's a time and place for it. Like there's every print size depends on what you're going to do with it. I'm very fortunate where I am because proximity to Carmel and Monterey, which, as I've now learned in the last year, is like the epicenter of the kind of photography that I'm interested in. I would say back in the day. But
Yeah.
there's several galleries there which are just just like stacked with Edward Westons and Adams. And its photography brought me to California. My work in tech paid for it, right? Like
Who
that's
are
a good
your
question.
influences?
Although I've always been interested in photography, I wasn't that interested in looking at other people's prints. I just liked playing around with cameras and taking pictures, right? Um, but that did change when I first saw, and this is a cliche to Americans, right? Because Ansel Adams is like a super household name over here, but that Clearing Winter Storm image from Tunnel View in 1944, I think. First time I saw that just on my computer screen in England, just blew me away. Like I did not know that images could look that incredible. Like I didn't realize that anywhere in the world could look that dramatic and beautiful and harmonious. And based on that, yes, me and my partner took a trip out to California, fell in love with the state, and then it happens to be a happy coincidence that it's also the epicenter for tech and the kind of work that I do. So that was just a lovely confluence of two interests.
I see those influences in a lot of the prints.
I'm sure I'm not the only one who struggles with the distinction between like inspiration and just the desire to copy. I've definitely been guilty of just being like, okay, I'm going to go to Yosemite Valley and I'm going to make my own Clearing Winter Storm, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's only very recently in this last year, I'd say probably starting in March 24, that I've just become more interested in like pursuing my own what I find interesting and what resonates for me and what I think would make a good looking print. The way in which I feel inspired by other photographers has changed. Like I now feel like I can look at the works from someone like Brett Weston and feel inspired, but without needing to go out and subliminally internalizing that, oh, this is a shot that I'm going to copy or whatever. It's just inspiration.
The first print sale that you did, the
Mhm.
edition sold out, looks like pretty quick because I couldn't get one. So,
Oh, oh no.
uh,
Honestly, that like my goals were one, I wanted to make a big fat stack of prints and not just have them sit in my house, right? But also, I was genuinely curious, like, is there any market interest in new work from black and white, all analog printmaking? Because I've been fortunate to receive some nice interest online from people, like on Instagram, you get nice comments and whatnot. But that's a very different type of reaction to actually like throwing money at it. Like, there's lots of people I love that I've never given any money to.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
so I priced my prints as low as I could possibly do just to cover the cost of materials and a tiny bit of time. But I didn't try and make any money off it, and I'm at least I think 3 or 4 times below the price point of the next cheapest prints that I know you can buy. And I put them up online and I was like, all right, I'll just buy 1 month of Squarespace and make
Mhm.
a little online shop, get them to figure out sales tax for me because that's another thing that I absolutely
Yeah.
can't do. I have one print left that didn't sell.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but
Yeah.
that was a really pleasant experience. Like it's obviously as you are well aware, it is very gratifying to think that someone might like something that you've made enough to actually want to have it in their house,
Mhm.
or possibly even put it on the wall.
I love that you're able to sell prints, and I love that what that means as far as people being interested in the analog print.
Yeah, my weird harebrained theories are that in the era of perfect camera phones and perfect inkjet printers, that the wet print will increase in value. I don't know if
Mhm.
that's true,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
I can see the argument. At least that's how I feel.
Mhm.
All
It
right,
was great talking to you, and best of luck with the next print edition. And hopefully, I'll grab one before they all sell out. But
thanks so much,
hopefully, we
Andy.
can keep touch. All right.
All right, cheers. Nice talking to you.
Cheers. See you.